Okay. Do you think the privatization of space travel is a hindrance to the long-term goal of deep space exploration?
It should have happened decades ago.
And
Now,
okay, and actually, I agree with you in that sense because, well, I'm not sure decades ago. I think the government had to be involved to learn how to get things going. I don't think
decades ago we knew how to go in and out of low Earth orbit since 1962.
That's right.
So that's decades ago.
That's right, and that's not deep. But that's not deep space exploration. But I think you're absolutely right. The private industry is a perfect place to do low Earth orbit because, and not NASA, because it's boring and dull, and
you can generalize it. It's not simply that private enterprise is for low Earth orbit. Private enterprise is for anything where the risks have been pre-assessed by the government investment in the frontier, which is I think where NASA should live, on the frontier, on the moving frontier, and as that frontier moves, it leaves behind routine. It leaves behind certain needs of the activity, and those needs would then be a void filled by private enterprise who would surely do it more efficiently than any government enterprise can. But the frontier, where it's dangerous, it's expensive, and all the risks are unquantified, you combine these three, you cannot establish a capital market valuation of that frontier, and so therefore government has to take the first step if you're going to do this at all. And that's why the post office doesn't have their own postal planes. You rent space in the belly of Delta Airlines because they can do it more efficiently.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But that's true of all science. Medicine is the same way. Business is not going to step in and do fundamental research. NIH is going to do it, and they're going to take that risk. And you can apply it any big risk.
And in fact, it's really important. Right now, people are saying, well, you got to fund science that has immediate application. But in fact, the government is there to fund the research that no private industry is ever going to fund because the benefits are a generation away. But in fact, 50% of our gross national product comes from fundamental curiosity-based research a generation ago. And the only way to do that is with the government.
Correct.
Now, we're all agreed with that. But the thing where we may disagree, and I'd be interested to see, because actually it'd be interesting because you're the Planetary Society, and I wonder whether Brian agrees with me on this, because I think many scientists like me would say the frontier doesn't involve people. The frontier that NASA is doing in space, the real science that NASA doesn't involve 100-pound bags of water.
I didn't say science. I talked about
I want to. Okay.
There's a distinction here. Yeah. If you only want to do science in space, you would never send humans.
You agree.
Would send robots. Even the geologist who would love to go to Mars with a hammer would just love it. If you gave the geologist the option, I can send you to one spot, or I can send 100
spacecraft,
100 rovers to 100 different spots that you can pick. They're picking the 100 rovers.
No, actually, that's not true. I'm in the Department of Geology, among other things, and many of my colleagues there disagree and say they think a geologist could do in a little while what rovers could do. I happen to disagree. I think
no. Did you tell them 100 rovers
in
100 different spots?
I did. You know what? I told them. Okay. I told them the real number, which is probably 1,000 different rovers, because you can send. Let me finish for a second, Neil. You can send, as I often say, you can send a rover to Mars for the price that it takes to make a movie about sending Bruce Willis to Mars.
That's right.
But if you told the geologists it was a one-way trip,
which is what I've argued for.
But they still want to be going.
They still want to go.
Yeah, then they're just crazy. I mean, why are you even talking to those geologists?
So you guys, just if I may speak briefly about the Planetary Society, we are fighting the good fight to restore funding for planetary exploration. We're trying to get $1.5 billion a year, so we need $300 million for planetary science, and it's being threatened. So fiscal year 14 is coming up for NASA. If you got nothing else to do, please check out planetary.org. and consider supporting this, because our claim is science is what NASA does best, and planetary science is the best of that. And so we really would like you all to consider supporting it. It is such a good value. It's such an amazing value, so consider it. And by the way, it's been estimated that what The rover does, built by our very best rover engineers, driven by our very best rover scientists, rover drivers, who are influenced by our very best scientists. What that does in a week, a human geologist can do in about a minute.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I agree,
So-
but the
no,
human
no,
geologist,
so there's the cost.
it's not going to run to 100 different places on the planet.
in fact, actually, the human geologist, I think, most often is not going to make it alive to the planet.
Well, I mean, so on and so on. But
Yeah.
this is where you see it's instead of 10,000 to 1, it's got to be like 1,000,000,000 to 1. So we'll get there. The longest journey starts with but a single step.
No, but the other thing I want to, like, let's stay on this topic for a little longer because
sorry.
I maintain the reason people are interested in humans traveling in space is because they can die. That's what makes it interesting, and you want to see if they're going to die. But you know,
I thought that was NASCAR.
What?
I thought that was NASCAR that you're talking about.
But you know, but I find. But let me ask you a question. I find it.
Lawrence.
Okay, I'll ask you this question. When I see a picture from the rover, I'm more excited about it coming from the rover than if it came from an astronaut taking the picture, because the astronaut's using a camera, but the rover is taking it's part of the rover.
Let me tell you why that's probably not true, even though you think it is.
Okay.
Okay. Most people don't know that there were robots as well as rovers on the moon while we were first going to the moon. But you didn't know anything about those because the media focused on the astronauts. And it's the astronauts through which we gain vicarious access to space because they have mouths, they have brains, they have a childhood memory, they have school teachers that can talk about those astronauts. And I've yet to see a ticker tape parade for a robot. So I submit to you that if at the same time the Curiosity rover landed, if at that same time a human astronaut landed on Mars, you would have known nothing about the Curiosity rover.
Yeah, but
it would have been relegated to page 30, and the front page headlines would have been humans put footprints on Mars. And it's that force which will bring less science than the robot that has a power of influence on our culture that inspires an entire generation to want to do the same thing. My generation, when you ask my fellow scientists, should we send humans into space? No, that's too expensive, send robots. Yet I said, why, how did you get interested in space? Oh, because of the Apollo program. And I slap them. I'm saying, what are you...
No, that's it. No,